Right, let's go. This is a special edition of the Compass podcast. It's bloody complicated. Compass is a cross-party campaign and ideas organisation that works for a good society, one which is much more equal, democratic and sustainable. And this is a special podcast. It's very special because we've got one of the inspirations for Compass joining us to talk about why he's inspired us. It is the wonderful Uffe Elbæk, and we're here to talk about his book, his new book out in English, and for the first time, Doubt, Hope, Action, which hopefully you can see here. There'll be a link about how you can buy it, even with the discount. It's an amazing book. I go back away with Uffe. We met in the distant past through a mutual friend of ours, Sheila Wright, who introduced us. And Uffe was on the kind of, well into his journey of being a serial entrepreneur in Danish politics, of starting all sorts of very interesting civil society organisations before he entered politics formally. And he's going to talk about that, and he's going to talk about his journey, and he's going to give you an outline of what's in the book, but only so that you can go away and be inspired enough to buy it and buy many copies for other people. So we're delighted to have Uffe on the podcast for this special, very special edition of It's Bloody Complicated. So, Uffe, welcome.
That was way too much.
Welcome to... never enough.
And it's fun because you are a true campaigner.
You're over here. Yeah. You've been in London for a few days now.
Exactly.
We did a in-person launch of the book on Thursday night, which was great fun. We really enjoyed that. But tell listeners and viewers, firstly, about yourself, who you are, what you are, before we arrive at the book. So how do we get from Uffe to the book? Give people a background about you and your life and your and how you got here.
Actually, it was a bit fun because when... the editor and the publishing house was reaching out to me in a very, very polite way. Jeremy, that's his name, said to me, maybe it would be good to if you could write a preface. I think that's the name of it, because you're known in Denmark, but in the UK you are not known, neither as a name or as a profile. And he did it in a very polite way, saying that I'm nothing in the UK context, and that's true. And then I wrote this preface saying, yes, I totally understand why you're asking me for that, because even if I work with you, Neil, and Caroline Lucas, who wrote the foreword for the book, and also Anita Roddick, the founder of Body Shop, yes, it's true. No one knows who the fuck is this guy?
But they're going to know now.
But I'm happy that the book is now published in UK, and my journey, my life journey, has for sure. It's not looking like an ordinary CV for sure. Normally, I try to explain people that I have always felt like an outsider in a way, but actually, I'm an outsider with a lot of insider knowledge and experience, because even if I have, as you said, Neil, been a serial entrepreneur, I've created youth organization and movements, and even a higher educational institution as the Chaos Prize, etc. I've also had a leg in the more established world, like a city councillor in Denmark's second biggest city, Aarhus, before I entered national politics. I've been Minister for Culture in Denmark, and also party leader for the Green Party, the Alternative. So it's a really interesting outsider, but with an insider experience. And this outsiderness has actually meant a lot to me. For those who don't know me, I'm a gay man. But I've actually been married to a wonderful woman before I really understood where I was heading. I have 2 grown-up sons, 5 grandkids, and my grandkids normally say that they have the most cool gay grandfather in Denmark. So my experience with life and doing what I'm doing has always had this: we can do better. We can create another society where each of us are able to be who we are with the voice we have. And that was also why I thought what you're doing, Neil, is so very, very important. And I like the purpose of Compass for the good society. So how can we create workplaces, organizations, local communities and society where we can be who we are?
Yeah.
And that's where I'm speaking from.
Yeah.
So
I think that accords a lot with the compass concept, which we call 45-degree change.
Yeah.
The diagonal meeting point between the horizontal emerging social forces and the vertical state, hierarchies.
Yeah.
And that the where they meet is the place where the action can happen.
Yeah,
if you get politicians like you who are respectful and want to turbocharge that emerging, energetic civil society forces.
It's an interesting framing you make there, because I've always said that where I feel most alive is what I call on the innovation edge, between the known and the unknown. And I've always had this leg in the known and a leg in the unknown.
Yeah.
And that innovation edge has, of course, over time moved, and I've moved with it. But that's where most of my life has been, on the innovation edge.
Yeah. So we'll come to the book in a bit, but most of our listeners and viewers will be located something around the party politics on the progressive side of politics in the UK. So just tell them a bit about the alternative and when that was set up and what its journey was, because I think they'll be really intrigued by that.
Yeah. For the listener and the viewer, if the video works, we don't know. And now I'm looking at the editor in the corner. I started out, you could say, as a mainstream politician. Of course, I've had in my youth, I was absolutely on the most leftist as you can imagine. Squatter in Copenhagen and whatever you can put on that. And then over time, around 1980, I got so tired of the left wing and the way we talked, and we always said we were against something. It was very seldom we were for something. It was against, and of good reasons, because there was a lot to be against.
Yeah.
Then for a long period, I said I don't want to be part of the political system and the party political system. So nearly for 18 years, I has stepped completely out and said to myself and the people I was working together with that I wanted to, in the opposite of producing negative pictures of society, I wanted to produce positive pictures. Even if it was a kind of argument for another society, I wanted to be part of creating the society we wanted to live in. So that was why I was doing all this entrepreneurial stuff. But around 98, the right wing really came back in Denmark in the format of a party called Danish People's Party, and a very anti-immigrant party in Denmark. And I said, I can't stand on the sideline looking at that. And then I decided to go back in traditional party politics. And first, as a member of a center party called Social Liberal Party in Denmark, I disagree with their economic viewpoints, but I liked their values. So and they had this entrepreneurial energy, which I liked. And they had good historical roots to the co-op movement and the folk high school movement in Denmark. So many reasons I started there. And I represented that party on a city council level, but in 2011, I ran for a seat in the Danish parliament and was right away voted in from Copenhagen. and was appointed Minister for Culture from one day to the other. So I came in with this. I hadn't had a traditional political career pattern, and I don't know how it is in UK, but in Denmark, a lot of people who are voted in to Parliament has gone through the traditional party hierarchy. And in a way, I came with a completely another experience, and also that was both something good, but it was also something bad, because I didn't knew the party machine as a parliament. So after some time, I ended up with the most fucked up shitstorm as a culture minister. And even all the arguments was wrong, and it was proven afterwards. I was criticized about all kinds of stuff, and later completely cleared. But during that process, I saw the worst of how parliament politics and media can interact with each other. So I decided to leave my political party and was in between for some months where I didn't know, should I just leave?
Right.
Just say.
So you're just an independent
I was an independent member of parliament. And there was really some months where I really didn't know, is it actually better if I leave and make my impact on society from outside the parliament?
Yeah.
But then I said, God damn it, no, they're not going to win over me in that right away. I'll go down on the floor and face them. And then I started to think about what is so wrong with party politics. Not only the party I was part of, but in most political party. Why is it that it's like life energy is sucked out of the space? And then I said, should I create a new political party where with another approach, saying, can we create not only a party but a political platform where all kinds of things can happen, where people's political engagement can unfold and be present? And yes, it could be in a political party, but it could also be in a think tank like Compass. It could be a newspaper, it could be a telephone company, whatever, or entrepreneurial company, whatever. We can create a lot of interesting stuff from that platform. And then we gave it the name the Alternative, which is a green party, progressive party in Denmark. And the way we designed it was that we were not spending a lot of time on creating a great political manifesto. Yeah, we wrote a manifesto and we came out with certain values. But the political program, we crowdsourced the program. And I think that was the first time ever you have seen in Europe that a party has crowdsourced a program. So more than 1,000 people was part of writing that program. And from there it very quickly grabbed the Danish citizens, and we came in with the first time we run for election, we came in with around 5% of the voters, which was big for us, of course.
And of course, Denmark has a proportional voting system, which helps a lot. I mean, I think we've not gone to the book, and we're not going to get onto the book yet.
Sorry.
No, it's right. No,
you have to cut all the stupid stuff out.
No, it's not that at all. I think what people are going to be hearing is, because I want to ask you just a little bit more about the party before we finally go to the book, because the more they hear about the party, the more they want to read the book.
Okay.
So just tell us, because we learnt a lot from you about, I mean, in particular, the culture of your party, because the policies may have been different and better than the ones on the table.
No, I don't know.
But your culture was different, wasn't it? The way you behaved was different, wasn't it? So tell us about the cultural aspect of how you did party politics.
Wow, you're really bringing me back to old days.
Well, it's good to be reminded.
It is, because actually I'm a big fan of Emma Goldman, the American anarchist, who has a wonderful quote saying, "If I can't dance, it's not my revolution."
Yeah, yeah.
And for me, that was so important from day one that you call it a party, a political party, but is it a party? so and actually we use it in the campaign saying join the party, and it should be alive, it should be inviting, we should create a space where you really felt that something of the most important thing we can imagine and work with is how should our society be organized and from what values and from what purpose, and why is it that a lot of political discussion are so without energy, and it's so competing and stuff. And I'm not naive saying you can take the conflict out, because politics is also conflict, and it's about where do we want this society to go.
Yeah.
So of course it's debates and discussion, etc. But we want it to be in another way. And I just talked about this crowdsourcing of the program, but we said we want to actually create political laboratories. And we designed these political laboratories, and we went on all over Denmark saying, we invite you to these political laboratories, and you can come, even if you come from other parties, you're invited. But of course, there's something that is not to be discussed, and that was our values and our political manifesto. But there's tons of things that we can discuss, and from there, we were able to see politics from another angle, and we dared to be way too naive, not stupid naive, but happy naive. That we could take that energy into the parliament, and sometimes. A good example is that if you're voted in the Danish parliament, you get part of the parliament for you, to your office or staff office and things like that. And we said, hey, okay, we're coming in, voted in from all the citizens saying you should be in the parliament, and we want your voice to be in the parliament, and we want your culture to be in the parliament. So we said, how can we manifest that in the way we organize? So we said, okay, part of the office should actually be given to artists, so they could have artists in residence in the parliament. And to get a residence period in the parliament was that they should work on the topic art, politics and power. And then each third month a new artist came in and could create an art piece one way or the other, just working with these issues. Just to give an example, we try to say, how can we make a parliament as lively as possible and engaging as possible? And for example, I don't know how it works in UK or here in London in the parliament, but in Denmark it's like the party meetings where the members of the MPs from that specific member of parliament, members from that specific party, when they have their own meetings, I don't know what you call it, but every week you meet all the members from the same party and discuss issues and who should have what position in the party. That is normally the most secret space, and journalists are not allowed in, and all the journalists are writing about what is happening inside the door, and what fraction of the party is now in power, and blah 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 blah. And we said, why on earth are we not just sending live on Facebook? and first I thought, no one would like to see what is happening in our internal meetings. But it showed up that it was a huge success. Everyone wanted to look into that secret space where politicians are talking about their internal conflicts. So stuff like that. We try to,
there's loads of other stories that if you can tell.
And maybe the final thing was that we said, instead of spending a lot on our communication team and press team and stuff like that, why don't we create a development team inside our party that was not focusing on day-to-day politics down on the floor, but said what is important 2 or 3 years ahead, and they should have completely free hands to come up with new campaign ideas or new political ideas without anything to do with the day-to-day practice. And because today, many political parties, at least in Denmark, they have no really idea production anymore.
Yeah.
They buy strategies from the outside.
Yeah.
And we said, why can't we turn our group in the parliament into a think tank as well?
Yeah.
So it was like campus moving into the Labour Party, or whoever you would like
all
to
the Greens,
all the Greens,
yeah.
and be inside the parliament.
Yeah.
As a political think and do tank.
Yeah. And listeners and viewers will, get a lot of flavour of Compass and how we learned that, how we were effectively a single party organisation that then brought Greens and Liberal Democrats and everyone else in. And then we talked about, seeing and doing politics in at least 3 dimensions.
And you inspired us. You inspired us. Some of the articles you have written, Neil, over the years has been enormous inspiration as long as I was still a member of the parliament.
Around. Right, let's get to the book.
Yeah.
Tell us about where the idea from the book came from.
Yeah, and I'll try to do it short because it's a wonderful, detailed story. But anyway, when I decided to step back from my seat in the parliament, and I did that in 2022, I decided also to write my memoirs in the same process. And then out of the blue in May 22, I got an email from an old friend in the US called D-Hawk. And most don't know his name, but for me he was maybe the most important person who has colored my perspective on leadership and organizational development. And D-Hawk created Visa Card International. So he has a very important voice in the business community in US, but a very critical voice, I have to say. He hated the business he started. Actually, he stepped down from Visa Card, but I became friend of D-Hawk back in the mid-90s in San Francisco, where I stayed at that time because the school I was principal for, the CARES pilot program, we had an outpost in San Francisco, and I met D-Hawk at that time, and we became friends, and he became my mentor in that period, and we had a lot of great discussion in his library in San Francisco. And at that time, a lot of young people don't really understand how special that period was, because it was just after the Berlin Wall has come down, and a new European landscape emerged, and that, together with the internet just coming up, a lot of us thought this is a golden period for civilization. We can work across borders, we can talk with each other across cultures, etc., etc. So I was sitting in this library in San Francisco, totally naive, saying, this is the moment of civilization. So it's a new renaissance. And I talked about the French Revolution, and I talked about large-scale social transformation. Then 30 years passed, and then D-Hawk emailed me in spring 22 and said, okay, Uffe, I'm so curious about what will happen with you personally when you get your own voice back after so many years in politics, because you've been communicating a collective message, but now you can actually communicate yourself and what you learned and what you still think about world and dream about world. So he was very curious what would happen. And then he asked me a really tricky question, because he said, now, hey Uffe, can you remember when we were sitting in my library and you talk about the French Revolution and big social, large-scale social change? Do you still believe in that? It was like a punch in my stomach, because I couldn't say yes,
Yeah.
100% because I've seen too much. I know too much. I know that we have all the facts on the table, how important the climate crisis is, and then all the politicians are doing nearly nothing. They don't dare to challenge the voter base and say we have to work differently, we have to produce different, we have to live differently. They don't dare to do it because they want to be re-elected next election. So I knew how slow the political system was moving compared to all the knowledge we have.
Yeah.
So I couldn't just say yes. The problem was that if I said no, then I could just go into my backyard and take a bullet. So I was just doing the not nice. I would just I don't know the word in English, but I did a sneaking.
Right.
I didn't respond to his email. So 1 week went, a second week went, month went, a second month went, and then I got an email back from US in July, but not this time from D-Hawk, but from his good friend saying, "Hey Uffe, do you know D-Hawk has died?" And I said, "Damn it! Why didn't I answer him?" So the book is dedicated to D-Hawk, and it's my way to come up with an answer if I still believe in large-scale social transformation. And so the book is my journey trying to figure out, is there still hope at the end of the tunnel? And I decided not to, from the start, know what my end chapter should be. I said to myself, Uffe, you shouldn't fall in the trap just to make a happy ending, because that's normal me. I think we can figure stuff out, goddammit.
Yeah.
But I was in doubt, and I had to be honest to my doubt and face my doubt and figure out, can I still use the word hope? Because at that time, when I started the book, the word hope was like listening to a Nike ad.
Yeah.
It felt dry in my mouth, and I had to figure out, how can I take back the word hope? So I started investigation and talk with. First of all, I wanted to figure out what is happening in the world, and I looked both into the dark side, really deep dark side, and then I started to also to look into the light side. And I always try to say I'm a big Star Wars fan, so I like to both look to the dark side and the light side, and try to figure out where is the Force.
Yeah.
So it was a year of investigation and talk with all kinds of people, and to the listener and to the reader, it ended up with a positive note and tone, and I can use the word hope again, but I can only use hope if it's in connection with action.
Yeah.
Otherwise, for me, that's not hope.
Yeah. So I think you've started to entice people into it. I mean, I have to say that it's a beautifully written book. It's very accessible. The language, the style, it's really engaging, it's personable.
Thanks.
It's a wonderful read, and has a foreword by our very own Caroline Lucas as
yeah,
well.
I was blown away of that foreword, and if Caroline are listening to this podcast, thank you, Caroline, because and you do it as well, Neil. You the way you talk about my work and me, I feel it's way too much. But I have to say, I was overwhelmed by what she wrote, and it was really nice.
So let's just give people a flavour of some of the aspects of the book. Just entice them in even more.
Yeah.
You've talked about the dark side. You went down the Trump rabbit hole,
exactly.
in order to look into that. But tell other elements of that are in the book, so people have got.
First of all, I look into, as you said, the dark side and the Trump alley, and what is the tech lords doing with our lives at the moment, the whole digital cocaine culture, so to speak, social media, blah blah, all these things. What is happening with women and men, young women moving to the left and the young men moving to the right. So I paint a in a way, very dark scenery, which is real. But then I started to look after what I call the new system, because the old system is collapsing, but it's actually a new system coming off ground. And it's still very vulnerable, but tons of good examples of people trying to rethink workspace, rethink production, rethink politics, rethink media, rethink whatever aspects of life. They're still vulnerable, I have to say. But what I also try to say, how can we move from what I would say gross capitalism, you can put all kinds of words on it, to a more progressive democratic post-capitalist system. I try to talk about what was the social movements that created the welfare state as we know it in Denmark today, which I in the book call the first social innovation wave of the Scandinavian society. How can we kickstart the next social innovation wave, and what can we learn from the first? And I look into both the co-op movement and the folk high school movement, which is such a weird concept for a UK listener, but still, how can we work with people's enlightenment in a progressive way? And then, of course, the workers' movements, labor movement, and what is actually the core of each three movements? The first, the co-op movement, was a new democratic way of organizing work and workplaces. Labor movement is, of course, about inequality, social awareness. The folk high school movement is of course, how can we educate ourselves and together without always thinking about grades and what we should use it to. What could we find examples of these principles in here now? And if they start to recognize each other, and if they start to not only say hello to each other, but also back each other up, and actually start to see themselves as part of a new ecosystem where we can actually help each other and buy from each other and support each other and learn from each other. Because the bottom line for the right side, the dark side, is that they are extremely organized. They are so coordinated. They share money, platforms, memes, politics. And then the light side is so disorganized and are competing with each other for the same money and media awareness, etc. So what the book tried to say is that we have to create new kind of strategic arenas where the new system are really working serious together. And that is, as I understand, what campus is all about.
Yeah, it's a similar kind of terrain. And you've been in the UK, I mean, you're in touch a lot, but you've been in the UK for almost a week. Just tell us what you've picked up about, where UK politics is and how it relates to the book and your life.
On a positive note, I think it's really interesting what is happening, that the two-party system is broken. And you suddenly see that even if I totally disagree with reform, you see reform, but you also see the Green Party with Zach Polanski. And so suddenly this, I think the UK has been in a lock because of the first past the post structure. So it has been nearly impossible for new political voices to be heard and also be represented in the parliament. And as you said, I know Caroline Lucas, and she has been such a lonely fighter for the Greens in the parliament for so many years. And I'm so happy for the Greens that they now actually has a team that can work together. So there's something really good or at least interesting what is happening now, that the system is in a new state, so to speak. But the negative side is that I think that what I see with the reform, and also seeing how the internal fight in labor is going on right now, that's not good. And I hope that you will get a new prime minister. I can say that seen from the outside. The way Sharma completely lost he was brought into Parliament with such an enormous mandate from the voters, and then haven't been able to do what he should. And I hope that the mayor of Manchester will be the next guy. Maybe I'm stepping over some toes right now, but at least seen from I hope that the mayor of Manchester will be prime minister. And then I also have to say that even maybe this is very surface knowledge for me, but first I was really a big fan of Zach Polensky, and I really liked his energy. But I would really hope that he also know his timing, that he should actually support maybe the good guys in Labour, but I don't know not enough about it.
Well, that's our hope, working across the parties to try and get them and building that progressive bloc against the regressive bloc.
Exactly.
They're going to have to work together.
I hope they will be able to work together, but it starts with the mayor of Manchester.
Well, it might well do, and I think what we need to do.
Maybe I have lost all the buyers of the book, but
no. What we're going to do is we're going to get the mayor of Greater Manchester a copy of Doubt, Hope, Action, because I think he would learn a lot from it, and there's a lot of crossover between what he's done. And
I think that if the mayor gets his moment, how do you pronounce his name?
Burnham.
If Burnham really get his moment and understand that there's such a need for another kind of political conversation, and the reason why reform is so strong as it is because they have seen, at least they pretend that they have seen and heard the people, and that they respect them, and that they will get their proud and value back after they come into power. I write about it actually in the books because I've seen the same kind of dynamics as reform do in UK, the same in Denmark. Some of the right-wing parties that has been able to get all the voters from the countryside of Denmark, and I'm so frustrated about the left that they haven't been able to address these obvious issues from people who feel marginalized. And in the book I describe that there are three main reasons for either people feel safe and secure, and that is that if people feel seen and heard, they feel safe and secure. If they understand why the things happens, as even if they don't agree that the change is necessary, but if they understand why we have to go through a transformation, then they also feel more safe and secure. And the last one, if they feel that they still have a role to play after the transformation, that they have an identity, they have a value, etc., then they feel safe. But if they don't feel seen and heard, if they don't understand why change is happening, and if they think that there's a risk that they will not play any role in the future, then of course they feel unsafe. And the right wing has been so good at addressing that emotional feeling. So I really hope that the progressive part of the political landscape really understands that.
Yeah, I hope so too. So everyone who's been listening and watching, I hope we've enticed you to reach out and click the line that's that takes you to the seller's discounted offer for Doubt, Hope, Action. You can see why Compass have been inspired by the alternative and Uffe, and we've learned so much, and he's been so generous with us, not just inspiring but generous with his time. So I think,
and the opposite around, I have to say, because and it's not to be polite, and we are on air, but the way you has written about politics, that was really good for me, because the dark side of the alternative, my own party, was that it started to be, didn't want it to address the conflicts. They wanted to. We are so fed up of conflicts, so we don't want to address them. But you also have to address the conflicts, and the way you talked about social change and social conflicts, that was, at least for me, really inspiring.
Well, good. I mean, that's the great thing about collaboration. So we've done the known.
So now we have said you are good, and
no,
I'm good,
I know
and you're good.
We're all good. We're all good. We're all good. But that's a fact. I hope people have enjoyed that conversation. I hope they're going to go and get the book and keep up with whatever Uffe does next, and clearly keep up with Compass too. Thank you very much for listening and watching.